The walls of Courtroom 12B in the Denton County Courthouse hadn't seen fresh paint in at least 2 decades. The vents coughed instead of cooling, and the flickering fluorescent lights gave everything a washed-out tint like an old photograph. It was the kind of place where time didn't bother to visit anymore, where justice often felt as stale as the air. At exactly 9:02 a.m., a man walked in through the back door. His name was Martin Hale. He wore a plain navy blue suit, carried a leather folio, and didn't look around like someone sizing up a room. He already knew what he would find. At the defense table sat 2 officers, Officer Chuck Ramsey and Officer Joel Stetson. Both were in their late 40s, white, broad-shouldered, and visibly unimpressed. Ramsey leaned back in his seat, muttered something to Stetson, and the 2 of them shared a smug grin, like kids who knew the teacher was powerless. Martin didn't flinch. He had walked into colder rooms where power didn't wear badges but whispered behind encrypted doors. "Mr. Hale," the court clerk called out, motioning toward the witness stand. He stepped forward calmly, like a man who knew every second that passed was working in his favor. As he passed the defense table, Ramsey said just loud enough for his partner to hear, "Another one of those guys. Bet he's here to play the race card." Stetson smirked, chewing gum like a teenager. "Probably a college professor. They always send in the educated ones." Martin heard it. So did the bailiff. No one said a word. He took the stand. The prosecutor asked, "Please state your name for the record." "Martin Edward Hale." "And your occupation, Mr. Hale?" "I work in government," he said simply. That was all. No title. No rank. No explanation. The prosecutor didn't push. It was part of the plan. Let the facts come first, let the name arrive later. Ramsey leaned toward Stetson again. "State-level guy, I bet. Some diversity hire." But Martin wasn't watching them. He was watching a young man in the gallery. Sitting beside his mother, Elijah Griggs had a faint scar down the right side of his jaw and a stiffness in his posture like he'd been holding in pain for months. His mother held a manila folder so tight the corners had curled. Stetson whispered, "Check out the guy's shoes. Fancy. Straight outta DC." Martin flipped a page in his notes without acknowledging the comment. Composed. The judge, a tired man with silver hair and a reputation for moving fast through cases, glanced up from his notes. "Stick to the facts, Mr. Hale." Martin gave a subtle nod. "Facts are all I've brought, Your Honor." No one in that room knew who they were dealing with. Not the defense. Not the judge. Not even the prosecution. That was the way Martin wanted it. To understand why Martin Hale didn't walk in flaunting his title, you'd have to go back to a cramped house in Jackson, Mississippi, where a boy once sat at a kitchen table while his father, a steelworker with quiet eyes and cracked knuckles, leaned over and said, "People won't see your title. They'll see what they expect. Let that be your edge." Martin lived by that advice. He didn't come from wealth. He came from discipline. He paid his way through school at the University of Georgia, criminal justice, with a minor in international policy. No frat parties. No social media. Just books, gym sessions at dawn, and overnight shifts at the campus library. He made it into a federal intelligence fellowship that rarely took non-Ivy Leaguers. He got in on his second try. No fanfare. No press. But by the time he was 45, he was sitting in high-security briefings, leading counterintelligence operations. And by 53, Martin Hale had been quietly appointed Director of Homeland Security by a president who appreciated discretion more than headlines. But that's not who walked into Courtroom 12B. The man who sat at that witness stand came not as a federal heavyweight, but as a silent reckoning. The file that brought him there was one among thousands. An excessive force complaint filed by Elijah Griggs, a decorated Marine Corps veteran who had been beaten during a traffic stop for a cracked taillight. No drugs. No threat. Just a cracked taillight and 2 cops who thought no one would question them. Elijah had nerve damage in his left hand and a titanium plate in his jaw. Martin had once cleared him for a government post years back. He remembered Elijah, sharp, respectful, a clean record. And when he saw the names Ramsey and Stetson in the report, something clicked. He'd seen them before. Same pattern. Same sloppiness. Same arrogance. Martin made a call. Not to D.C., but to the Denton County clerk. "I'll testify," he said. He booked a room at a low-end motel, wore a no-brand suit, and drove himself in a rental car. He wasn't here to impress. He was here to expose. As the hearing proceeded, Martin dismantled the defense like a surgeon. He cited dashcam footage, radio logs, internal memos that had been misplaced, and body cam footage that mysteriously powered down mid-stop, despite a maintenance report showing the device was fully functional. He brought printouts, time stamps, internal affairs reports never sent to the Civilian Review Board, GPS logs, unauthorized stops, names of supervisors who had rubber-stamped false reports. Every piece of evidence was real, cold, clean, unshakable. Stetson stopped chewing gum. Ramsey stopped smirking. And the judge stopped tapping his pen. Martin paused. "Would you like me to list the other 5 victims?" The prosecutor nodded. One by one, Martin named them. 1 had moved to Chicago. 2 had moved out of state. 1 had filed 4 separate complaints. None answered. The last one had died by suicide the year before. That one hit hardest. Ramsey clenched his jaw. Stetson stared at the floor. Finally, the defense attorney, Benjamin Harwood, stood. His charm gone. His confidence cracked. "Under whose authority were you reviewing these files, Mr. Hale?" Martin didn't flinch. "Mine." "And your position?" "I am the Director of Homeland Security." The courtroom froze. No gasps. Just silence. The kind that presses down on a room. "I oversee federal compliance with domestic law enforcement agencies receiving federal funding," Martin continued, "including Denton County." He pulled out a single sheet. "This is a formal notice of a federal investigation into Denton County Police Department's pattern of abuse. Effective immediately." 2 people in the gallery stood. Observers from the Department of Justice. Badges shown. No words needed. The courtroom belonged to someone else now. Ramsey whispered, "You set us up." Martin turned to him. "No. You did that yourselves. I'm just the guy holding up the mirror." The judge finally spoke. "Is this verified, Mr. Hale?" Martin handed over another sealed envelope. "Signed by the Attorney General this morning. Full list of federal observers is included." Everything changed in that moment. Martin gathered his folio and rose. For those watching, and those listening, every badge carries weight. And every abuse of that badge carries a cost. That cost will be paid. If not today, then tomorrow. But it will be paid. He stepped down. No applause. No chairs. Just impact. That night, Martin stayed in the same motel. No calls. No celebration. The next morning, just before sunrise, he sat outside with a black coffee and a yellow notepad. Across town, Elijah Griggs sat in a diner with his mother. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't watching the door. "I didn't think anyone would show up for me," he said. His mother squeezed his hand. "Someone did." Back in D.C., Martin returned to work. His assistant had left a pile of new files on his desk. At the top, a photo from the courtroom. Martin, standing tall, mid-sentence. Clipped to it, a note that said, "Some rooms don't need shouting. Just presence." He smiled, just barely. Justice hadn't won that day. But something had shifted. Even the quiet can make a sound, if it speaks at the right time.